Over 1 million Canadian renters could lose their homes by the end of 2026. That's not a headline. It's a real warning from housing advocates reacting to a new Supreme Court ruling that just changed everything. This decision isn't just a tweak to tenant laws. It's a full-on shakeup of rental rights, landlord powers, and housing protections. And while it affects millions, Canada's seniors, many living on fixed incomes, may be hit the hardest. Imagine living in the same apartment for 25 years, only to get an eviction notice with no legal way to fight it. That's now a growing reality. Rents are already at record highs, and with this new ruling, experts say we're heading toward a rental market collapse. But what exactly did the Supreme Court decide? And why is it being called a time bomb for housing? Stay with us, because in this video, we're breaking down the 10 reasons this ruling could destroy Canada's rental system. Number 1. Landlords just got more power. For years, tenants across Canada had at least some degree of legal shelter under provincial rent laws, but that protection just took a major hit. The Supreme Court ruling now allows landlords to evict tenants for personal use, with far fewer restrictions, and without any obligation to compensate or relocate long-term renters. Legal experts are calling it a loophole on a silver platter, especially dangerous in cities where rent is already unaffordable. The scariest part? Many landlords won't need to provide evidence of genuine personal use, making it easier to disguise profit-driven evictions as personal necessity. Some tenants, especially seniors, have lived in their homes for decades. They've built communities, raised families, and counted on rent stability to survive retirement. But now, their homes are suddenly up for grabs. Older tenants on fixed incomes are the most at risk, not only because they're less likely to find affordable alternatives, but also because moving itself can be physically and emotionally devastating. Imagine being 75 and told you've got 60 days to leave the place you've called home for 30 years, all because your landlord's nephew might move in. That's not just a legal issue, it's a human one. Looking ahead, this shift is expected to spark a wave of evictions that weaponize this new personal use clause. Housing advocates are already reporting a rise in notices that seem suspiciously convenient for landlords. And unless provinces step in with clearer regulations and enforcement mechanisms, this court-backed power will keep tipping the scales against tenants. This isn't about punishing landlords. It's about preventing abuse of power that could unravel housing security for hundreds of thousands. What do you think? Should landlords be allowed to evict without proof? Let us know in the comments. And if this topic matters to you, please subscribe. It's just one click, but it helps us create more videos like this. Number 2. Rent control is quietly vanishing. Many Canadians don't realize it yet, but this Supreme Court ruling has opened the floodgates for landlords to bypass rent control in ways that were previously blocked by law. By allowing evictions under looser conditions, landlords can now remove tenants and reset the rent to market value, which, in today's climate, can mean doubling or even tripling the price. What was once a system designed to protect vulnerable renters has now become a backdoor for profit extraction, and most tenants won't even see it coming. Previously, landlords had to jump through hoops to increase rent beyond annual caps. But now, once a tenant is out, there are no limits on what the next person can be charged. This especially affects older units that were grandfathered into rent control policies. These units, often occupied by seniors, students, and low-income families, are the exact ones being targeted. As vacancy decontrol spreads, entire neighborhoods are seeing rent hikes that price out locals and attract wealthier tenants, permanently changing the character of communities. As these changes roll out, we're seeing a dangerous domino effect. Affordable housing stock is shrinking fast, not because buildings are disappearing, but because the laws that kept them affordable are being dismantled piece by piece. It's a subtle, almost invisible shift, one that won't make headlines but will absolutely shape where people live, how much they pay, and who gets left behind. Without intervention, this trend could lead to a rental market dominated by wealth and exclusion, where longtime residents are replaced by those who can simply afford to outbid everyone else. Have you noticed rent control disappearing in your area? Tell us your story in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. It's one click, but it means the world to us. Number 3. Renovictions are about to surge. Across Canada, the term renoviction is no longer rare. it's becoming the norm. Thanks to the recent Supreme Court ruling, landlords now have more legal cover to evict tenants under the claim of renovation, even when those renovations are minor or unnecessary. While the law once demanded strict proof and timelines for such actions, the new decision loosens those guardrails, making it much easier to push people out and hike the rent. Tenant boards are already seeing an increase in disputes where the renovation claim looks more like a smokescreen for profit. It's the perfect legal loophole. Evict a longtime tenant, do cosmetic upgrades, and relist the unit for double the price. This disproportionately impacts seniors who've lived in aging buildings for decades, buildings that now become prime targets for landlords eager to exploit the new ruling. And unlike younger renters, seniors often don't have the energy, health, or financial resources to fight back or find another home. The emotional and physical toll of a forced move at that stage of life is devastating. What's even more alarming is that many of these renovations don't actually happen. In countless reported cases, landlords make minimal changes, like replacing a countertop or repainting walls, before flipping the unit to new tenants. Legal experts warn that without stricter enforcement, renoviction abuse will explode, especially in cities already facing housing shortages. We're witnessing a systemic shift where housing is treated less like shelter and more like a speculative asset, and renters are the collateral damage. Have you or someone you know been threatened with a renoviction? Drop your experience in the comments, and please subscribe. Just one click helps us continue exposing stories that matter. Number 4. Seniors can't afford to move. For thousands of Canadian seniors, this Supreme Court ruling is more than a legal shift. It's a direct threat to their independence and dignity. Most seniors live on fixed incomes like CPP, OAS, or small pensions, which means every dollar counts. When they're suddenly evicted, whether through a personal use claim or renoviction, they're not just losing a home. They're facing a rental market where prices have outpaced their incomes by nearly 3-to-1. With vacancy rates at historic lows, finding a new, affordable place is next to impossible. The cost of moving itself is another barrier. Hiring movers, paying deposits, buying new furniture, or adjusting to a new environment, all of this is physically, emotionally, and financially draining for older adults. Many have spent decades in the same building, forming deep community ties. Being forced out doesn't just cause stress. It increases health risks, leads to social isolation, and in many cases, pushes seniors toward institutional care far earlier than necessary. Aging in place isn't just a preference, it's a public health strategy, and it's slipping away. Policy experts have warned for years that stable housing is key to senior well-being. This ruling disrupts that foundation. With the erosion of rent control and weaker eviction protections, the very people who helped build this country are being left behind. We're not just talking about isolated cases. We're talking about a growing wave of elderly Canadians being priced out of their homes, their neighborhoods, and their communities. And if no intervention happens soon, we could see homelessness among seniors rise faster than any other demographic. Do you believe seniors deserve stronger protections in housing? Let us know in the comments. And if this message matters to you, please subscribe. One click helps keep voices like these heard. Number 5. Housing is now a corporate investment. What used to be a family-owned rental unit down the street is now more likely to be owned by a corporation or real estate investment trust, REIT. Over the past decade, Canada has seen a surge in financialization of housing, where large investment firms treat homes as income-generating assets, not places to live. But with the new Supreme Court decision, that trend is set to accelerate dramatically. The legal green light for easier evictions and rent hikes makes the rental market far more attractive to investors and far more hostile to renters. These corporations operate with a single goal: maximize profits for shareholders. That often means cutting maintenance costs, using legal loopholes for mass evictions, and rapidly raising rents to match or exceed market highs. Unlike individual landlords who may care about long-term tenants or community impact, corporate landlords are driven by performance metrics. And now, with fewer legal hurdles, they can scale their eviction and renovation strategies faster than ever, treating renters like numbers in a spreadsheet. What's more troubling is the reach these firms have. They often own entire blocks of buildings, giving them control over local rent prices and tenant turnover. Once they acquire properties, community ties fray, eviction rates rise, and rent inflation follows. In some cities, housing advocates have already noticed clusters of evictions tied to corporate ownership transitions. With this ruling, analysts warn we may be entering a new era where corporate consolidation of the rental market becomes the norm, and housing inequality grows in the shadow of corporate growth. Have you ever rented from a corporate landlord? Was your experience better or worse? Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit subscribe. One click helps fuel real conversations on real issues. Number 6. Affordable housing is drying up. Across Canada, affordable rental units are disappearing faster than they're being replaced, and this Supreme Court ruling just added fuel to the fire. The moment landlords are legally allowed to evict under looser terms and reset rents, formerly affordable units become part of the high-price market. And here's the catch. The majority of affordable housing in Canada isn't government-subsidized. It's older private units that used to be protected by rent control or tenant stability. Now, those safeguards are falling apart, and with them, the last line of defense for millions of low-income renters. Every time one of these older units is vacated, it's a lost opportunity for affordable housing. A unit that rented for $900 last year could now go for $1,800 or more. And when you multiply that across entire buildings or neighborhoods, the picture becomes grim. People working full-time jobs, seniors on pensions, single parents. They're being priced out of their homes with no safety net to catch them. Cities like Toronto, Halifax, and Vancouver are already facing this pressure, and the numbers show wait lists for subsidized housing are exploding. Meanwhile, new affordable housing projects are slow, underfunded, and years away from completion. At the current rate of development, they can't even keep up with the units lost to market conversions. Experts are calling this a ticking time bomb, where the disappearance of naturally affordable housing creates a permanent class of renters unable to live where they work. Without aggressive intervention, this decision could turn Canada's rental market into a luxury-only zone, excluding millions from safe, stable, and affordable homes. Is affordable housing disappearing in your city too? Share what you're seeing in the comments, and please subscribe. That one click keeps content like this alive and in the fight. Number 7. Support services are already overwhelmed. Behind the headlines and court rulings lies a hidden crisis. Canada's housing support system is stretched to the breaking point. Legal aid clinics, emergency shelters, housing hotlines, and social workers are all reporting surging caseloads. And with the Supreme Court's new decision making it easier for landlords to evict, even more tenants are flooding these already overwhelmed services, desperately trying to navigate their rights, find new housing, or simply avoid sleeping in their car. This isn't just about legal changes, it's about real people with nowhere else to turn. Many of these support systems were never designed to handle mass displacement. Shelters are operating at or over capacity in major cities, while tenant advocacy groups face months-long backlogs. Seniors and disabled individuals who need tailored support are particularly at risk of falling through the cracks. The Supreme Court may have clarified property rights, but it ignored the social cost, pushing the burden onto underfunded local systems that can't keep up. And as evictions rise, that burden will only grow heavier. What's most concerning is the ripple effect. When support systems collapse under pressure, everyone suffers. Families are split up, mental health issues worsen, and communities destabilize. This creates a vicious cycle of poverty and displacement that becomes harder and more expensive to fix the longer it's allowed to grow. Without immediate funding increases and policy protections, the ruling could trigger a wave of housing insecurity that overwhelms not just renters, but the very institutions designed to protect them. Have you or someone you know had trouble getting housing support? Let us know what happened in the comments, and hit that subscribe button. It's just one click, but it helps us give a voice to those being left behind. Number 8. The middle class is no longer safe. For a long time, the housing crisis was seen as something that affected only the most vulnerable, low-income renters, students, or the elderly. But that illusion is quickly fading. The new Supreme Court ruling doesn't just affect people on the margins. It's pushing middle-class Canadians to the edge, too. With rent controls weakened and eviction protection stripped back, Families who used to feel secure in their rental homes are now facing sudden rent hikes, unpredictable lease terms, and a shrinking pool of affordable options. In cities across the country, dual-income households are being priced out of the very neighborhoods they helped build. Nurses, teachers, service workers, even young professionals with decent salaries are struggling to stay afloat as landlords capitalize on the new legal environment. And with homeownership increasingly out of reach, renting was the only alternative. Now, even that has become unstable. This ruling sends a clear message. No one is untouchable in today's rental market. The financial stress isn't just about rising rents. It's also about the loss of control and stability. Families are being forced to move more frequently, pull kids out of schools, and sacrifice savings just to secure a roof over their heads. The idea that if you work hard, you'll be okay is starting to unravel. And as more middle-class Canadians feel the squeeze, public trust in housing policies is eroding fast. We're entering a new phase of the crisis, one where affordability is no longer just a low-income issue. It's a national one. Are you part of the middle class and feeling the pressure? Share your experience in the comments. And if this hit close to home, please subscribe. One click really helps us keep stories like this in the spotlight. Number 9. Generational tensions are heating up. As the rental crisis deepens, a new and uncomfortable divide is growing between generations, and this Supreme Court ruling may only make it worse. Many younger renters struggling to find affordable housing or facing eviction under the new legal changes are looking at older generations, particularly seniors in rent-controlled units, as part of the problem. On the other side, seniors feel increasingly targeted, displaced, and unfairly blamed for a housing crisis they didn't create. This is not just a policy failure, it's a growing social fracture. The ruling, by reshaping eviction laws and weakening protections, indirectly fuels this tension. Younger renters are being pushed out by rising rents, while seniors are being pushed out by renovictions and ownership changes. Instead of uniting to demand solutions, communities are being pitted against one another, generation versus generation, fighting over the same shrinking supply of stable rental homes. This division plays right into the hands of profit-driven developers and landlords, who benefit from the distraction while quietly reshaping the housing landscape to suit their bottom line. What we're seeing now is more than just economic pressure. It's a loss of empathy and shared understanding. Instead of blaming each other, both young and old renters should recognize they're being squeezed by the same flawed system. Real change comes when communities unite, not when they fracture under pressure. But if this ruling isn't challenged or rebalanced, the cracks between generations could widen, making it even harder to fight for fair housing for everyone. Have you felt tension between generations when it comes to housing? Drop your take in the comments. And if you believe in unity over division, hit that subscribe button. One click keeps this conversation going. Number 10. Tenant organizing is rising, but so are the risks. Across Canada, tenants are beginning to push back. Frustrated by rising rents, mass evictions, and corporate landlords, renters are forming unions, launching petitions, and showing up at city council meetings. The recent Supreme Court ruling has only intensified this momentum, as more people realize that the legal system isn't protecting them the way it used to. From Vancouver to Montreal, tenant organizing is on the rise, and it's becoming a powerful voice in the fight for fair housing. But with that rise comes a new set of dangers. The same ruling that empowered landlords to evict more easily is also being used to silence dissent. Tenants who speak out, especially those involved in unionizing or organizing protests, are increasingly facing retaliation, sudden non-renewals, rent increases, or being added to informal blacklists. In provinces without strong tenant protection laws, just participating in a tenant meeting could cost you your home. The message from some landlords is clear: stay quiet or face the consequences. Still, the movement is growing. Social media is giving renters new tools to share stories, expose abuses, and build solidarity across buildings and even cities. But staying informed is key. Knowing your rights, connecting with advocacy groups, and documenting everything can make the difference between organizing safely and becoming a target. In a rental market where legal protections are shrinking, tenant unity may be the last real defense, but it needs support, awareness, and courage to survive. Would you ever join a tenant union? Or have you already? Share your experience below. And if you believe in empowering renters, please subscribe. One click helps us keep bringing light to stories that others won't. The Supreme Court decision has drawn a bold new line through Canada's housing landscape, one that divides the protected from the exposed, the housed from the displaced. With a single ruling, decades of hard-fought tenant protections have begun to unravel, and the consequences are already being felt. From increased landlord power to the quiet dismantling of rent control, from renovictions to rising generational tensions, this isn't just a legal shift, it's a societal one. And the people caught in the middle, everyday renters, families, seniors, and workers just trying to hold on to the place they call home. This ruling doesn't affect just one group or one city. It touches millions across the country. And as housing becomes more financialized, unaffordable, and unstable, the need for collective awareness and action has never been more urgent. If you're not affected today, chances are you, or someone you love, will be tomorrow. That's why understanding what's happening, sharing these stories, and speaking out is critical. But knowledge is just the first step. Now, more than ever, we need solidarity over division. We need renters and homeowners, young and old, from every background, to push for laws that protect people, not just profits. The future of Canada's rental market is still being written. The question is, who will write it? What do you think is the biggest threat renters face right now? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear from you. And if you believe these stories need to be heard, support us by subscribing. It's just one click, but it helps more than you know. We put real time and research into every video so we can give you the full truth, not just the headlines. Let's keep this conversation going together.